What's up, chaps and chappets? Welcome back to another episode of The Road to Glory. I have actually just got a little bit of a cold at the moment, but you know, we got the green tea going. It's pretty overpowered. Probably cure it in about 2 seconds flat. It's very overpowered. Green tea is actually insane. Like Weetabix green tea, goodness me, that is nice. But nonetheless, we're playing the 4-3-2-1. We're actually using Pep Guardiola's tactics sort of back in the day when he was with Barcelona, although we have actually got a Liverpool kit. Both Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola back in the day at least used these sort of 4-3-2-1 type tactics. So basically the way that this works is you've got the right back and left back on overlap. Middle centre mid is kind of the CDM in a way. We actually switch Alan into that middle centre mid slot just for the CDM. He's just going to stay back. The two centre mids are going to get forward. We have one either the left forward or the right forward is going to be a false 9, so it drags the right back or left back with them. And then you can create that space in behind, and then the other one just gets in behind. I think striker's on balance. So we've got press after possession loss on the defensive style, just so that when we're playing that sort of tiki-taka sort of style to an extent, although Pep Guardiola like hates that word, because I think tiki-taka actually means just passing for the sake of passing, whereas you're passing to exploit the defense and drag them out into positions that are gonna sort of exploit some space. You know, if for example, you know, you're doing a 1-2, player comes across, that space that he's just left is now open for attack. But nonetheless, I actually went through the custom tactics pretty quick. But in the I think it's the depth on the defense or whatever is just going to be like quite high up, just because you want to be controlling the game. What this means is that you actually have to defend as opposed to the 4-2-3-1, where you just sit deep and then just sort of like sweep up. So this is very much real football. You know, this is very much playing actual football instead of abusing mechanics in the game, and it does actually work really well. And not just that, it's much more satisfying for me personally, because I did actually recently get a book which was the Pep Guardiola, I think it's called like How to Play Like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, and I think it's a translation of a Spanish book which was written by maybe a UEFA Pro licensed coach or something like that. So it's very in depth to do with Pep Guardiola's tactics, and I'm trying to get it in the game, basically. Like, it's difficult to do because obviously you're only controlling one player at a time. It would be very easy to do on pro... Well, not really easy to do on pro clubs. You need 11 players, first of all, and you'd also need 11 players that are willing to sort of get training, you know, get the tactic going. That would actually be sick. But, you know, there's only so much you can do because you can't exactly arrange players into triangles when you're only controlling one player at a time, and you can't get them in, like, the shapes that you want them in, and you can't get them exactly sort of how Pep Guardiola would play. But to be honest, you can get them close enough. I'm not gonna lie, like, you can get them to be very organized. You can retain possession very well, and basically what we're doing here is we're just sort of we're playing a lot of triangle passes in the midfield. We're also using it's like a concept where it's basically you just dribble into the space. So if, you know, let's say everyone's being marked, although at all times there's definitely going to be at least one player free, but let's say that loads of players around you are being marked, you could just play it down the wing with like your left back or right back, and what this will do is players are going to drag across to you, and then that space in the middle is going to open up. So it's basically bringing players with you when you're dribbling, and then it will open up spaces for other players. And what you want to constantly be thinking about when you're playing this style is just how you're dragging around their defense. So even if you're just doing like a simple 1-2, you're going to be dragging them to you, and then therefore that space is going to open. So you just got to keep retaining possession until a space opens. And, you know, for example, one of the key things that you have to look for specifically in the 4-3-2-1 is the right forward and left forward getting in between the centre-back and the left-back, or the centre-back and the right-back. And often this can happen just by getting your right-back and left-back and just sort of like bombing them down the pitch. And then the left-back, say you're running down with the right-back, the left-back is going to get dragged across to that, and then therefore your right-forward is going to sort of get in that half space, as it's called. And then that's when you can really exploit the defence. But a lot of it as well, like I said, you have to actually defend manually. It's going to be... A lot of it is going to be about clever pressing. You have to be very clever with it. A lot of people are likely just to give up on this tactic just because it's difficult to do, you know. You have to actually be very logical in terms of what you're doing. I'd say there's more of a skill gap to this type of gameplay because you're playing with a high line and you can be exploited if you don't play it properly. Especially if you give it away just in a stupid position and you rush your play. You can't rush your play. You always have to be patient. You have to wait for the opportunity to open. And you will be rewarded for that, you know. You basically just got to control the game. And although it's only over 12 minutes, like, the thing is the game would be much less RNG if the game was slower paced and also over like 20 minutes. But you still want to be making sure that you're controlling the game so much that you have the higher probability of winning the game. And I mean, one of the things as well is just kind of like, is like I say, pressing. You want to make sure that you're very clever with it. But when you have the ball and you're just sort of playing very much like just outside their box, a lot of the time, seeing as you're sort of disorganized, what it is kind of I've forgotten what the term's called, but it's basically when you're sort of passing it about in and around their box, they're going to be so disorganized from chasing players all around the pitch. And when you're playing a very sort of congested game, you're going to be able to win the ball straight back, which is why we have press after possession loss. So about the next 7 seconds, if you have more players in a certain zone of the pitch, if you split the pitch into like different boxes, if you have more players in a zone, then you can just easily press. And it's all about overloads. It's about overloads in attack and in defense as well. But anyway, I'm going to talk more about what's actually going on in game as well. So we're actually like, we're basically just keeping the possession all the way from the back, sort of playing it forward, giving it to Savage here. As you can see, Cancelo going down this right hand side, looking to give it to Savage, and I'm just running into the space. I'm causing him to have to play somebody out of position. He didn't control Marcelo, which means Dybala could have easily just sort of gotten away there. We spotted the gaps, and I think that's one thing that I definitely did not do enough. It's just sort of, you know, when you've got space, just run into the space, and then people are going to have to, you know, you're forcing a defender then to make a decision. It's like, a lot of the time you'll see strikers have options available, and therefore the defenders have got to mark those options. But a lot of the time you might see someone like Harry Kane just sort of going for the shot himself because the defenders are so preoccupied with defending the other winger or whatever, whoever's in support. So you just have to be very wary of like what players you've got as options, and also what your defender that you're up against is gonna have to deal with at the same time, and then just sort of playing that to your advantage. But, you know, we can see the goal early on in this game. This guy was actually pretty decent, I'm not gonna lie. He seemed like a proper, it was just like a FIFA sweater, you know, like he was abusing the mechanics like most people do. We open him up here though. Mertens gets a bit unlucky not to get the goal, but it falls for Perisic nonetheless, and we just tuck it away. But look at this, like, I just hate seeing that. Like, honestly, that's so stupid to me. Like, just scoring silly little finesse shots and stuff like outside the box like that. You know, decent finish there, you got to be saying. Bold Eddie just getting a bit of room here. We do a skill move. Couldn't quite get the goal. Nice little block. Corner comes in. Savage seems to be scoring every time I whip it into the box or something. And he seems to be the only one that scores off the corners as well. I'm not going to lie. Like, he literally just gets all of the goals. But nonetheless, Dybala. We spot the space in behind. Yo, somebody just slammed the door somewhere in the house. That actually... I was shook for a second now, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, Dybala gets into that little pocket type thing. You know, a lot of the time when you're playing the triangles, like I say, they'll go out to the player on the ball, and then all of a sudden you can play in like Dybala or, who, you know, player that's just running in behind. So you want to just be constantly thinking about, as I say, just where they are. And in that occasion there, although I didn't actually get anything from that, what he's done there is I've used a left back, and he's just for a second come towards me, and that's instantly just opened up the space for the left forward there. But also, you know, as much as I've been talking about attacking, it's also just about, like I say, I've already touched on it kind of briefly, but just think a lot about the pressing. Be very clever with the pressing. Try and just get the ball early off. And also, you know, you see it with Liverpool a lot with Jurgen Klopp's tactics, is that he'll have his front three just kind of sitting forward, and they'll just win the ball high up the pitch, whether it's sort of organised pressing, which is when you'll have them blocking off passing lanes in the defence. So the right forward will block off the left back, left forward will block off the right back, and then the striker will block off the CDM. So it basically just enables them to press high at the pitch, not allow the opposition to get out. That's one type of pressing. And then there's also just all-out pressing, which is when you have a numerical sort of advantage in a certain area of the pitch, you can literally just go all out press them, and it's going to be difficult for them to get out of those situations, you know. But you've got to pick up on how the opponent's playing, what formation they're playing, what style of play, and then you can kind of apply this all. But I definitely recommend looking into Pep Guardiola's tactics if you want to be exact on sort of how you're playing. But nonetheless, this is going to be the tactic we're using at the moment. I'm going to be making vlogs as well, making the Paris vlogs at the same time, kind of mixing up the content. But I'll see you chaps and chapettes on the next one.